So welcome, friends. You've caught us between chores. The watering cans are empty, the chickens have settled in for the evening, and there's still a little dirt beneath their fingernails. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Nell. You found us at the Garden Gate, a place where gardeners gather, neighbors swap stories, and no question is too simple to ask. Every week we'll pull a real gardening question from the online gardening community and bring it here to the fence line. Together we'll sort through the advice, separate gardening myths from proven practices, explore the science, rediscover the old ways, and share the practical knowledge that's helped generations of gardeners grow food and confidence.
So pull up a bucket.
Lean on that fence.
The garden is always teaching us something.
Let's see what today's visitor has brought to the Garden Gate. Welcome back to At the Garden Gate, the gardening mini-series from Old Ways, New Days, where we share practical gardening wisdom, learn from the seasons, and help you grow with confidence, one garden at a time. There is something incredibly satisfying about bringing a basket of vegetables in from the garden. The tomatoes are warm from the afternoon sun, the onions smell earthy and sharp. The garlic is still covered in soil. The potatoes are freshly dug, and for a moment, it feels like you've won the gardening lottery. But harvesting is only half the job. If you want that harvest to carry you through the weeks and months ahead, how and when you harvest matters enormously. A vegetable that's handled properly can sometimes remain delicious for months. That same vegetable, bruised, harvested wet, or stored at the wrong temperature may begin deteriorating within days. So today we're going to beyond simply asking, so is it ready to pick? We're asking, how do I harvest this so it lasts? Grab your basket, your garden knife, and maybe a pair of clean pruners. Let's head through the Garden Gate.
Hi, Nell.
Hi, Kayla.
How are you?
Not too bad. How are you?
I've missed you.
I've missed you too.
I've been bored out of my mind.
What? No way.
I know, recovering from surgery, yes.
Sitting at home with your cats.
I know.
Nothing else to do.
No. I mean, I look at the garden every day. I can't lift, I'm not supposed to lift anything over 10 pounds, so the hose is considered over 10 pounds.
That's crazy.
I know. So I look at the garden, and then I grumble at all the weeds that are coming that I can't pull.
For shame.
I know. But yeah, we're back at the Garden Gate again together. I did an episode for this past Monday, or last Monday by myself.
Yeah.
Because you've been super busy.
Oh, it's crazy. People being off of work because they're on vacation, me having to pull long shifts, extra shifts.
Yeah.
I even have to work my day off for the next 5 weeks.
Ew, 5 weeks? Yikes.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Hey, overtime.
I know. Yay. Money in my pocket.
Right. So last week, our Garden Gate episode talked about knowing when to pick the veggies. So I figured we should probably do one on how to make sure that they last.
Yeah, that would probably be wise.
Yeah, because not everybody has access to cold storage or a
Dark
cellar
space.
or a dark space, and maybe the best dark space they have is a high cupboard.
And those aren't always the best either.
Yeah, depending on where it's located in the house.
Yep.
So I figured, let's break it down for our listeners, and it was a great little mini-series topic.
Yes, absolutely.
So the first rule is harvest for the vegetable you have. There isn't one universal harvesting method. A tomato isn't an onion isn't a cucumber, a potato isn't a winter squash. Some vegetables want to be harvested young and immediately refrigerated. Others need to mature completely on the plant and then be cured before they're stored. Some need moisture removed, others need humidity preserved. Understanding what your vegetable naturally needs is the key to keeping it around.
One of the simplest things you can do to extend storage life is surprisingly easy. Pay attention to the weather. Whenever possible, harvest storage vegetables on a dry day. Wet vegetables are more susceptible to rot and fungal problems. If you've had several days of rain, give the garden a chance to dry before harvesting crops destined for long-term storage. For many crops, morning is an excellent harvesting time because the vegetables are cool and firm. But there is an important exception. Don't harvest wet produce simply because it's early. If everything is covered in dew, wait until the foliage and vegetables have dried. You're looking for cool and dry, not simply early.
Handle everything like it's made of glass. Okay, maybe not literally, but close. Bruises and cuts create entry points for microorganisms and dramatically shorten storage life. When you're harvesting, don't toss vegetables into a bucket. Either. Don't drop tomatoes into a basket. Don't pile delicate produce underneath heavier vegetables. Think of your harvest basket as a nursery rather than a toolbox. Gentle, careful, intentional. If you accidentally puncture, split, or badly bruise a storage vegetable, set it aside. Use that one first. Your pantry should contain the strongest specimens.
We're going to talk about tomatoes first. So tomatoes are a little different because long-term storage isn't really their specialty. For the best flavor, allow them to ripen on the plant whenever possible. But if frost is approaching, you can harvest mature green tomatoes and allow them to ripen indoors. Handle them gently. Don't refrigerate ripe potatoes unless absolutely necessary. Cold temperatures can damage their texture and flavor. Keep them at room temperature, preferably out of direct sunlight, and use damaged or overripe tomatoes first. And remember, a tomato with a small crack is not necessarily garbage. It simply belongs at the front of the line. Eat it, can it, make salsa, turn it into a sauce. The goal is to use the harvest, not create a museum exhibit in your kitchen.
I think that's where I was getting to. Waiting for you to come over so I could show you how to can.
Yeah. Well, I'll have tomatoes and I'll make you finally come over and we can can at my place.
And I have probably 20 more on the plant still.
See?
So I've got another round.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We'll have plenty.
All right. So next we'll talk about cucumbers and summer squash. These are not long-term storage vegetables. You want to harvest them young and tender. Keep them cool after harvesting and use them relatively quickly. For cucumbers, avoid storing them directly against very cold temperatures for extended periods because they can suffer chilling injury. And don't put cucumbers in the same storage environment as apples or ripe tomatoes for long periods. Those fruits release ethylene gas, which can accelerate aging in some nearby produce. When it comes to cucumbers and zucchini, the best storage strategy is often simple. Pick frequently and eat them frequently. And if you've got more than you can eat, pickle them.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm going to do with the ones I have at home. So now we're going to talk about green beans. Green beans are another vegetable where freshness matters. Harvest them when the pods are firm and before the seeds inside become overly developed. Handle them gently. Don't wash them until you're ready to use them unless there's a specific reason to do so. For short-term storage, refrigeration is your friend. But if you have a bumper crop and want beans through winter, preservation is the answer. Blanching and freezing works beautifully. Pressure canning is another option for appropriate bean varieties and recipes. The important distinction is this: fresh storage and long-term preservation are two different things. The refrigerator might buy you days. Proper preservation can buy you months.
On to peppers. Peppers are wonderfully versatile. You can harvest them green or allow them to mature into their final color. For storage, choose firm, undamaged peppers. Don't wash them until you're ready to use them. Refrigerate them in appropriate produce storage containers and use damaged peppers first. But peppers also lend themselves beautifully to preservation. They can be frozen, dried, dehydrated, fermented, pickled, made into sauces. One garden can give you peppers long after plants themselves are gone.
Let's dig into some potatoes now. Now we're getting into serious storage territory. Potatoes intended for long-term storage should be mature. Once the foliage has died back, allow the potatoes to mature in the soil as appropriate for your variety and conditions. Dig carefully. A shovel slicing through a potato may not seem like a big deal until you realize that damaged potatoes don't store well. Handle them gently, brush off excess soil, but don't aggressively scrub them. Then comes one of the most important steps, curing. Potatoes should be cured in a dark, well-ventilated place under appropriate conditions so the skin toughens and minor harvest wounds heal. After curing, move them into a cool, dark, humid environment suitable for potato storage, and keep them away from light. Green potatoes aren't simply a cosmetic problem. Greening indicates increased glycolides, including solanine, and heavily green potatoes should not be eaten.
Yep. It'll make you sick.
Mm-hmm.
Onions are champions of the pantry when harvested and cured properly. When the tops begin falling over naturally, stop watering and allow the crop to mature and dry as appropriate for your conditions. Harvest on a dry day, handle carefully, then cure them somewhere warm, dry, and well ventilated. The outer skins should become papery. The neck should dry down. Once they're properly cured, trim the tops or roots according to your storage method, then place them somewhere cool, dry, and well ventilated, and inspect them periodically. One soft onion can become the beginning of a rotten onion collection. Remove questionable ones immediately.
On to garlic. Garlic follows a similar pattern. When several of the lower leaves have turned brown, but there are still green leaves above them, the bulbs are often approaching harvest. Dig rather than pulling aggressively. Avoid damaging the bulb. Then cure the garlic in a dry, shaded, well-ventilated location. Do not wash it. Let the soil dry and brush away loose dirt later. Once cured, the wrapper should be dry and papery. Properly cured garlic can remain useful for months, and there is something wonderfully satisfying about looking at a braid of garlic hanging in the pantry, knowing you grew the entire thing yourself.
I didn't close the window.
That's fine.
It's garden sounds, I guess.
Right?
Alright, so carrots and other root vegetables. So carrots, beets, parsnips, and similar root crops can often remain in the ground longer than gardeners realize. But when you're harvesting them for storage, don't simply yank them out and toss them into a bucket. Lift them carefully. Brush off excess soil. Don't scrub them clean. And remove the leafy tops. Why? Because those greens continue pulling moisture from the root. Oh, Yama!
Stop it.
Sorry, the kitty's playing with the microphone.
Oh, Yama.
Hey, buddy. Alright, because those greens continue pulling moisture from the root. The carrot doesn't need to keep feeding its leaves once you've brought it into storage. Depending on the vegetable, root crops can be stored in cool, humid conditions, often packed in slightly damp sand, sawdust, or another appropriate storage medium. The goal is to prevent excessive moisture loss without creating a soggy environment where rot takes over.
Winter squash and pumpkins. Here's where patience really pays. Winter squash needs to mature before you harvest it for storage. The skin should be hard. The color should be appropriate for the variety. The stem should be skin drying, and the fruit should resist being easily scratched or punctured. Harvest before a hard freeze. Use a sharp knife or pruners and leave a substantial stem attached. Don't carry squash by the stem. That's an invitation for the stem to break. Handle them gently, then cure many varieties in a warm, dry location before moving them into longer-term storage. That curing process helps toughen the skin and improve storage life. And once they're stored, check them regularly. If one begins to soften or develop a bad spot, remove it before the problem spreads.
The cat is very into the podcasting atmosphere today.
Apparently.
All right, cabbage. Cabbage can be remarkably good for storage. Choose firm, healthy heads. Avoid heads that have been badly damaged by insects or disease. Harvest carefully and remove damaged outer leaves. Depending on the variety and your storage setup, cabbage can remain usable for quite some time under cool, humid conditions. It can also become one of the greatest preservation foods in the garden. Sauerkraut, kimchi, fermented cabbage. A cabbage harvest can become an entire winter food tradition.
On to Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts are interesting because they actually tolerate cool weather quite well. In many gardens, they improve after exposure to cooler temperatures. Harvest the lower sprouts first as they reach the desired size. Continue upward as the season progresses. This gives you a rolling harvest rather than one enormous pile of sprouts all at once.
And don't forget your herbs. Herbs can be preserved too. For many herbs, harvesting before flowering for the strongest flavor, although that varies by plant and intended use. Choose a dry day, cut clean stems, bundle loosely, hang them somewhere warm, dry, dark, and well ventilated. Once completely dry, strip the leaves from the stems and store them in airtight containers away from light and heat. A garden harvested in July can still be seasoning your soup in January. That's one of the small miracles of preservation.
The first in, first out pantry. Here's a simple practice that can make a huge difference. When you bring something new into storage, don't automatically put it in front. Rotate your supplies. Older produce goes towards the front. Newer produce goes behind it. This is the simple principle used in commercial food storage. First in, first out. Label your preserved foods with the date. Check stored vegetables regularly. And keep a small notebook or pantry list if you're storing a significant amount. You don't need an elaborate homestead management system. A piece of paper taped inside a cupboard can work just fine.
Your storage area matters. A basement, root cellar, garage, pantry, spare room, closet. Different crops have different requirements. Some want cold, some want cool, which are two different temperatures. Some want dry, some want humidity, some need darkness, and some need airflow. Before putting 20 pounds of onions in the basement, ask whether your basement actually provides the conditions onions need. Your storage space doesn't have to be perfect, it simply needs to match the crop.
Inspect, inspect, inspect. Long-term storage isn't a put it away and forget it project. Every week or two, inspect your stored vegetables. Look for soft spots, mold, sprouting, shriveling, bad smells, insect damage. One spoiled vegetable can sometimes contaminate or accelerate spoilage around it. Remove anything questionable immediately. And don't be afraid to use something simply because it isn't perfect. A slightly sprouted potato may have a different use than a pristine one. A soft apple might become applesauce. A tomato that's past its prime might become sauce. Preservation is about extending usefulness, not achieving perfection.
The garden teaches us to waste less. This is one of the reasons I love the homesteading tradition. A successful harvest isn't necessarily necessarily the one with the biggest vegetables. It's the one where the greatest amount of food actually makes it to the table. A slightly smaller carrot that survives months in storage is more valuable than a giant carrot that rots in the bottom of the refrigerator. A basket of tomatoes turned into sauce in August can become dinner in February. A handful of herbs dried in September can flavor meals all winter. Harvesting well is really the first step in preserving well.
The garden gives us an incredible amount of food, but it also gives us a lesson. Abundance requires responsibility.
When the harvest arrives, we have to slow down, pay attention, handle things carefully.
Learn what each crop needs, and make a plan for what comes next.
The goal isn't simply to grow food, it's to use it well.
So the next time you walk into your garden with a basket in your hand, don't just ask, "What's ready?"
Ask, how do I harvest this so I can enjoy it for as long as possible?
Because the work doesn't end when the vegetable leaves the line.
In many ways, that's when the next part of the harvest begins.
Thank you for joining us at the
The
Garden
Garden
Gate. Until next time, keep your baskets close
Your pantry organized,
and your hands in the dirt.
and remember,
A harvest isn't truly preserved until you make it last.
we'll see you next time right here.